And so all Canadians should pay attention to what I'm about to tell you. I'm sure many of you know this already, but you need to know that this is a fact. And this is received from a Canadian government elected member who claims that the Prime Minister's office, known as PMO, is planning a nightmare for Canada. Not that they don't have one already. He says, I'm a committee member within the Liberal Party of Canada, and I have information I am providing originating from the Strategic Planning Committee, which is controlled by the Prime Minister's office. And he said they've been very clear that nothing will stop the planned outcomes of what I'm about to tell you. And this is a roadmap planned by Mr. Trudeau, who I know is under house arrest and hopefully will soon be prosecuted and other things happening to him. So here's what they're planning for you, Canada. First, phase in a secondary lockdown restrictions on a rolling basis, starting with major metropolitan areas first and expanding outward, and this will be by November 2020, next month. Rush the acquisition or construction of isolation facilities across every province and territory, which is expected by December 2020. Daily new cases of COVID-19 will surge beyond capacity of testing, meaning they'll fake the numbers, including increases in COVID-related deaths following the same growth curves, and this is by the end of November 2020. Complete and total secondary lockdown, much stricter than the first and second rolling phase restrictions, are expected by the end of December 2020 or early January 2021. Reform and expansion of the unemployment program to be transitioned into the Universal Basic Income Program, expected by the first quarter of 2021. Projected COVID-19 mutation, which they're already starting to talk about, and or co-infection with a secondary virus, which they will call COVID-21. See how they named that after the year? See? Brilliant.
Very clever.
Leading to a third wave with much higher mortality, which will not be true, they'll fake it, and a higher rate of infection, and that is expected in February 2021. Daily new cases of COVID-21, hospitalizations and COVID-19 and 21 related deaths will exceed medical care facilities capacity, and that will be in the first half of 21. Enhanced lockdown restrictions, referred to as the third lockdown, will be implemented. Full travel restrictions will be imposed, including inter-province and intercity, which is expected by the second quarter, or April to June of 21. Now, we were told, or the Parliament was told, to offset what was essentially an economic collapse on an international scale, that the federal government was going to offer Canadians a total debt relief. Now listen to this carefully, because you've heard this before. This is how it works. The federal government, meaning Canada, will offer to eliminate all personal debts, mortgages, loans, credit cards, etc., which all funding will be provided to Canada by the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, under what will become known as the World Debt Reset Program. You have heard of it as NESARA GESARA. So this is a big red flag of those of you who believe in this NESARA GESARA stuff. This is what comes along with it, according to this information from a Canadian parliamentary. In exchange for acceptance of this total debt forgiveness, the individual will forfeit ownership of any and all property and assets forever.
So why would people do that?
I'll tell you why. The individual would also have to agree to partake in the COVID-19 and COVID-21 vaccination schedule, which would provide the individual with unrestricted travel, unrestricted living, even under the full lockdown, because they'll have a photo ID referred to as Canada's Health Pass. That's why. Committee members asked who would become the owner of the forfeited property and assets in that scenario, and what would happen to lenders or financial institutions, and we were simply told the The World Debt Reset Program will handle all of those details. In other words, it will go to the
New World
rulers.
Order.
To the rulers.
New World Order.
Several committee members also questioned what would happen to the individuals if they refused to participate in the World Debt Reset Program or the Health Pass or the vaccination schedule, and the answer we got was very troubling. Essentially, we were told it was our duty to make sure we came up with a plan to ensure that would never happen. We were told it was the individual best interest to participate. When several committee members pushed relentlessly to get an answer, we were told those who refused would live under the lockdown restrictions indefinitely. You'd never be able to leave your house. And that, over a short period of time, as more Canadians transitioned into the debt forgiveness program, the ones who refused to participate would be deemed a public safety risk and would be relocated into isolation facilities, hence the camps being built across Canada. Once in those facilities, they would be given two options: to participate in the debt forgiveness program and be released, or stay indefinitely in the isolation facility under the classification of a serious public health risk and have all their assets seized anyway. In the end, it was implied by the Prime Minister's office that the whole agenda will move forward no matter who agrees with it or not. That won't be just in Canada, but in fact all nations will have similar roadmaps and agendas. That we need to take advantage of the situations before us to promote change on a grander scale for the betterment of everyone. In other words, a robotic, communist, mind-controlled society. So is this the real Nasara Gassara? It sounds like a communist dictatorship to me. Is it a Soros plan? A Chinese Communist Party plan? Is this the real reason for the virus? I think that's the deep state's reason. I am going to say, and I hope with all my being, that President Trump and his friends, which I cannot say who they are, will not allow this to happen.